call the meeting to order. State Government Finance and Policy and Elections Committee, today being Wednesday, March 10th, 2021. And I want to start off by making an announcement that we are moving the number 5 on the agenda, Senate File 708, Senator Koran's bill. It is being moved to this evening. It will be first on the agenda this evening. We're planning to come back at 6:30. So that bill will be moved off of the morning agenda and moved into the evening agenda. That is being posted as well. All right, members, with that, I believe we're ready to continue at this time. And Senator Matthews, Senate File 450, glad to have you on the committee today. Appreciate your making the time. We're glad to hear your bill. And before we get started, I just want to be sure, Ms. James, the purpose of this bill, which is referred to us, would you just, for the record, the purpose of the bill, the sections or whatever in front of the committee for us today?
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, we just got the link to the Zoom and we are just joining you, and I don't even know where you're at on the agenda.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right. Yeah, okay, we will take care of that. Actually, Senate File 450 is about rulemaking for the most part in its body, but I'll give you time, Ms. James, will call on you later. So with that, Senate File 450, Senator Matthews, I'll move the bill to put it on the table in front of us. And with that, Senator Matthews, go ahead and present your bill after stating your name.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Senator Andrew Matthews, and thank you for taking the opportunity to hear Senate File 450. This is an issue we've been working on for several years. It is about the Pollution Control Agency's rulemaking authority as it pertains to the California CARS emission standards. And there's been a lot of pushback as to why the agency is choosing to go this route via rulemaking. Many believe that it is circumventing the legislative process. They've admitted that they thought about going the legislative route, but decided instead to try to implement this new emission standard by rulemaking. And so this bill is to push back on that, to say that that they're not allowed to make rulemaking in these areas with regards to the air standards as a pushback to the rulemaking process. So I know you have a full schedule today, Madam Chair. I don't know how thorough you'd like me to go into the bill. I believe that you've heard this before in past years. There have been a number of hearings on this last year and this year, and I'm happy to be as brief or as lengthy as you need me to be.
Thank you, Senator Matthews. The reason why the bill, though, is before this committee is specifically about rulemaking. So we're trying to make it that we're not going to have a full discussion of the topic of emissions or other things, but specifically, as you introduced it, the fact that rulemaking is being used instead of the legislative process, which would be the correct way to do this kind of a policy. It's not that sort of thing. So it is focused to that, but I see also that you have some testifiers. We'll certainly be able to have our testifiers today, and they can probably convey some of that as well. And our members, because of a heavier agenda, we are limiting the time for testifiers and prefer if they self-regulate themselves and take a look at their own watch and keep their time to a 3-minute limit. And with that, if that's okay, Senator Matthews, I'll go to testifiers. All right, yes. Thank you very much. All right, so I'll call on Craig McDonald with the MPCA. Mr. McDonald, if you would state your name and title for the record and then proceed with your testimony. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, my name is Craig McDonald, and I serve as Assistant Commissioner for Air and Climate Policy. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on Senate File 450. As you may know, the MPCA's mission is to protect and improve the environment and human health. We take our mission seriously and are dedicated to taking actions that keep our air, land, and water clean for all Minnesotans. When the legislature created the MPCA, it granted the agency the authority to regulate air pollution from stationary and mobile sources. This authority allows the MPCA to use its expertise and to follow the science in determining where air pollution is coming from and how it is impacting human health and the environment. On-road vehicles emit 24% of our statewide air pollution. Air pollution from vehicles includes nitrogen oxides, volatile organic compounds, and particulate matter. These pollutants contribute to ground-level ozone formation and cause significant human health impacts, including cardiovascular disease and premature death. Communities of color and lower-income Minnesotans are disproportionately impacted by pollution from vehicles. Busy roadways and their associated pollution often run through these communities of color and are the result of historic inequities. However, reducing air pollution from vehicles benefits all Minnesotans. Senate File 450 would strip the agency of its ability to set vehicle emission standards that address greenhouse gas pollution. The transportation sector is the #1 emitter of greenhouse gases in Minnesota, and light and medium duty vehicles account for over half of the greenhouse gas emissions in the transportation sector. In order to meet the goals of the bipartisan Next Generation Energy Act, addressing the transportation sector emissions is critical. Madam Chair, this bill prevents the agency from accomplishing the very purpose for which it was created. The bill will prevent the agency from adopting vehicle emission standards that are protective of the human health and the environment, and that it has the legislative authority to do. We oppose this bill because it is a drastic rollback of the agency's ability to protect Minnesotans from harmful air pollution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. McDonald. I am looking for, I'll save my comments and questions so that we can go through our testifiers first. I'll call next on Mr. Sam Benson. Mr. Benson, please state your name for the record and then proceed with your testimony. Mr. Benson, are you on the phone only, it appears? Okay, Mr. Benson, if you need to work something out, the same staff that you signed up to testify are the ones that can help you if there's a technical issue, and then I will come back to you. The next testifier I will go to is Ms. Kathleen Schuler, and I see you're on screen, Ms. Schuler. State your name for the audio record, and then you can proceed to your testimony, reminding you about the 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, Senators, I'm Kathleen Schuler. I'm Policy Director with Health Professionals for Healthy Climate. We are a network of 500 health professionals across the state of Minnesota. We are doctors, nurses, public health experts, and other health professionals. We oppose Senate File 450, which removes the authority of the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency to regulate vehicle air emissions. I asked the committee why we would remove the authority of the MPCA to address vehicle emissions at a time when our state is failing to address carbon pollution in transportation, the #1 contributor to greenhouse gas emissions in our state. In addition to creating carbon pollution, vehicle emissions are a significant source of air pollution, which is hazardous to our health. Long-term exposure to air pollution is associated with higher risk of cancer, cardiovascular diseases, exacerbations of asthma and other respiratory problems, as well as stroke, low birth weight, and effects on children's brain development. Clean car standards will save lives and improve health, especially in neighborhoods with higher percentages of lower income people, people of color, and Indigenous people who already experience high levels of air pollution due to living near high traffic areas. Improvement in air quality translates into better health with increased life expectancy. Studies show that children's lung function improves and they have fewer bronchitis episodes when there is an improvement in air quality. One study concluded that electric vehicles powered on a clean energy grid can reduce environmental health impacts by 50%. We should not remove the authority of the MPCA to carry out its critical leadership role in addressing the climate crisis. As health professionals, we urge committee members to retain the MPCA's statutory authority to implement clean car standards, a critical strategy to clean up our air and reduce carbon emissions. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Ms. Schuler. Thank you for your taking the time to be here today. With that, Mr. Benson, are you available? Still doesn't seem to be coming through. Again, I'll come back to him as if it will work. Next testifier then on the list is Ms. Carolyn Berninger. And Ms. Berninger, there you are. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name and whatever group you're representing, if so, and then proceed with your testimony.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Carolyn Berninger, and I am a climate policy analyst at the Minnesota Center for Environmental Advocacy, or MCEA. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all today. I will be brief. MCEA is a nonprofit organization with almost 50 years of experience using law and science to protect Minnesota's environment and the health of its people. We strongly oppose Senate File 450. As you're all aware, the transportation sector is the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions in Minnesota, and passenger cars and trucks are a major source of air pollution that harms human health. We need to be working as fast as we can as a state to mitigate climate change and to improve public health. And instead, this bill would strip the PCA of its ability to protect Minnesota's communities from vehicle pollution. MCEA supports maintaining the PCA's authority to pursue Clean Cars Minnesota through the rulemaking process. This rulemaking is an opportunity for Minnesotans to have a say in which vehicle standards are right for our state. Thousands of individuals and organizations have spoken up already as part of this rulemaking process, with many speaking in favor of the rules, and many more will be submitting detailed comments to an administrative law judge next week. Meanwhile, the PCA's technical and policy experts, as you've heard, have studied the impacts these standards will have on Minnesota and have worked with stakeholders to inform the details of its proposed rule. This has been a collaborative and robust process, and it should be allowed to be carried out. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much, Ms. Berninger. I appreciate your taking the time to be here today. Mr. Benson, are you on the line with us? Still not there. I see a little. Mr. Benson, are you with us? It looked like briefly he was trying. All right, we will then go to Justin Fay. Mr. Fay, I see that you are there, and welcome to the committee. Your name for the record.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and good morning, members of the committee. My name is Justin Fay, and I'm here today on behalf of Fresh Energy. Fresh Energy is a nearly 30-year-old Minnesota-based, nonpartisan, not-for-profit organization. We work to shape and drive bold policy solutions to achieve equitable carbon-neutral economies, and we appreciate the opportunity to offer our perspective on Senate File 450. Senate File 450 would remove the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency's statutory obligation to protect air quality from motor vehicle pollution as currently described in Minnesota Statutes 116.07, Subdivision 2. Fresh Energy opposes this change to current law. We believe that maintaining the role of the Minnesota of the MPCA to utilize rulemaking to protect Minnesotans from exposure to air pollution from all sources, including motor vehicles, offers the most certainty and the best overall protective framework for Minnesotans. The MPCA plays a critical role in safeguarding the health of Minnesota, both its residents and natural resources. Reducing or undermining this critical public function risks subjecting our most vulnerable communities to poor air quality, as well as increasingly detrimental climate impacts. We understand that there are a range of perspectives on the rulemaking process currently underway. However, we believe that MPCA's proposed rules are fully consistent with the direction provided to the agency by current law, and we support their adoption. For these reasons, we recommend a no vote today on Senate File 450, and I thank the committee for its time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fay. Thank you for taking time to be here today. Appreciate that. Senator Matthews, to the comments of these testifiers, would you like to have an opportunity to make a few comments?
Madam Chair, thank you, and I'll be brief. I appreciate the discussion. We've heard many of these things as we've gone over this for the last couple of years. But the rulemaking process as they're using it right now is not solely just on adjusting what an air standard may be. It's reaching far beyond that to what cars can be sold here in the state of Minnesota, impacting manufacturers, impacting the dealers that have those relationships. And the market share is already moving in this direction towards cleaner and cleaner vehicles. That's where it's going naturally. And the dealers are asking, hey, don't make it too harmful. If if you push it now, it's going to be very harmful on getting there, making cars all across the range more expensive. And we're going to be getting there anyways in just a few years. So let the market take its course. So that's why we're trying to push back on this rulemaking. Because it's going beyond just setting what an air standard would be. It's reaching into the business area. Now, we fully agree on the health comments, on the clean air comments. That, of course, is universally recognized. That's what all our companies, all our industries are pushing towards. And so I get those concerns. I'm in full agreement with them. But the rulemaking standard is not going to be affecting that anyways as much as they're saying. It would just drive the cost of vehicles up. It would put, if it makes the new vehicles more expensive, that will end up trickling down to the used vehicles that some of our lower income communities have to rely on. That would put more pressure on the sale of those cars and make those prices more expensive. So we're here basically to say the market's moving this way. Let's let it get there on its own because we all value health and clean air for one another. And the proposed rulemaking is, while it purports to do it, won't end up accomplishing that.
Thank you, Senator Matthews. Senator Pratt.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator Matthews, for bringing this bill. Just a couple of quick comments and then maybe just a question for Mr. McDonald. And Senator Matthews, I think you touched on this. One thing to look at addressing emissions and contributions towards good climate change or global climate change as a policy matter. But it's another thing to do so without consulting the elected officials, without collaborating with the industry to find out what works for them. And if you've been following this MPCA approach to force Minnesota into California's emission standards, what you'd find is that we've missed some very important steps that would have been picked up had the legislature been engaged. It's my understanding that we misstated the price of gasoline to inflate the benefits of switching to EVs. We inaccurately placed a decimal point that significantly increased the particulate matter analysis that went into the sonar. And let me just touch on that because that's the question I have for our MPCA. If I recall, you put out a statement in February where you admitted that when you did the sonar and the particulate matter in the tailpipe emissions, you missed that by a factor of 10. Is that correct?
Mr. McDonald.
Madam Chair and Senator Pratt, there was a transcription error in the data where we had an issue with the decimal point being incorrectly by a factor of 10 for the standard, which we admitted and corrected as soon as it was made to our attention and have entered into the record.
And so the particulate matter,
Senator Pratt.
thank you, Madam Chair. So the particulate matter was 10 times less what you put into the sonar. It's also my understanding that you've relied on cars.com to be the surrogate for the marketplace. And as we all know, looking at dealerships and online, cars.com is not the marketplace. And quite honestly, Madam Chair, the legislature should be involved in big, bold policy matters like this. And I don't think that anybody ever expected an administration to misuse this authority the way this administration has. This is serious stuff. This is serious stuff. So, Madam Chair, I support the Matthews bill wholeheartedly, and let's get this thing to the floor as quickly as we can.
Thank you, Senator Pratt. Thank you, Senator Pratt. I'll go next to Senator Howe, and then Senator Osmek has his hand up also. So, Senator Howe.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll try to just ask one question of Mr. McDonald. You know, with President Biden coming out and announcing on April 1st the emissions standards, why aren't we waiting to hear what the direction the federal government's going before we decide what Minnesota's going to do?
Mr. McDonald.
Madam Chair and Senator Howe, as I stated in my testimony, Minnesota is currently not on track to meet its goals under the Next Generation Energy Act, and the transportation sector is the #1 emitter of greenhouse gas emissions. And in order to meet those goals, we will need to take action in the transportation sector. And under the Clean Air Act, Minnesota has the option of following the standards that California and 14 other states are following, or following the federal standards which were rolled back under the previous administration. Recognizing that those were the two options we had in place and we're not on track to meet our goals is an important opportunity for us to look at following the California standard and the standard that 14 other states are following. The Biden administration has said that they will be looking at this standard and taking it up, but we don't know the timeline for that. And we don't know when it will happen, nor do we know the standard that will be in place. So it's important for us, if we are serious about meeting our goals, to pick the standard that helps us meet those goals, and that is the Clean Cars standard.
Senator Howe.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to make the difference. You know, there are goals, there are standards, there are requirements, there are state statutes. Just because it's a goal, you know, I might have had a goal to be president someday. Guess what? I adjust my goals. People adjust their goals all the time because we try to put them out there to try to stress ourselves. But to say that just because we established a goal a number of years ago and we're not on track, sometimes we adjust our trajectory and adjust our goals. Just because it's a goal doesn't mean we need to upset the way we do business in the state of Minnesota and hurt businesses to try and reach a goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Howe. I'll go next to Senator Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I have a question for Mr. McDonald as well. Senator Matthews said that things are moving and we might get there anyway. You know, we know that a year ago, we didn't know very much about a pandemic. A year ago, actually 2 months ago, we didn't know very much about Texas grid and how stable it was. So there's a lot of things that do change over time. And I'm not sure what is going to be changing in that period that we're dealing with here. But I would like to know, in just a quick rundown from Mr. McDonald, you know, what are the process steps that we're going through? What's going to happen in 2021, 2022? And, you know, when is the comment period? When does it close? When are decisions made? And when are we looking at as this actually being in place and having some teeth to it? I don't think it's going to happen next week, next month, maybe not even next year. But I would like to know a little bit more about the timeline.
Mr. McConnell.
Madam Chair and Senator Carlson, thank you for the question. The timeline, as stated in the SONAR, requires a 2-year waiting period from the date that is the final rule is adopted and enacted. So the earliest we would see this is potentially January 1, 2024, or model year 2025. So that would be the earliest date. However, before that, automobile manufacturers, who are the regulated entities under this rule, are eligible to receive early action credits for electric vehicles and plug-in hybrid electric vehicles under this, helping to ease their compliance burden that they may see in that first model year. So that's kind of the effective date. The next step in the process is the public comment period closes on the 15th of March, so next Monday. After that, and per the Administrative Procedures Act, there is a rebuttal period of 5 business days where interested parties have the opportunity to respond to some of those comments through that rebuttal process. That closes on the 22nd of March. After that, the administrative law judge will issue a report within 30 days. And that report has the opportunity for the administrative law judge to approve the rule, and this is our recommendations, to approve with changes or to disprove it. And after that, it would go ultimately to the governor's office for final adoption based on those rules. And I'll just note lastly that the MPCA is required to respond to all comments that are entered into the record. So we are in the process of responding to comments that have been submitted, and we'll be continuing to do so throughout that process.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Senator Carlson, you're still on mute. Did you want to follow up? Otherwise, I'm going to go to Senator Clausen.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. I guess what I'd like to just ask is there's no prohibition from me to write a comment or from any other legislator to write a comment and get their questions asked in this comment period. So we can have some input, can't we?
Mr. McDonald, excuse me.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Carlson, that's correct. Any interested party, including the legislature, may weigh in and provide comments. In fact, I believe we have received a letter from 58 different legislators, both in the Senate and the House, in support of this particular rulemaking effort to date.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. I think that may be changing as we go forward. Thank you, Senator Carlson. If you're done, if you put your hand down on the technical thing, it helps. Senator Clausen, you'll be next, and then Senator Osmek.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I really think the central issue in Senator Matthews' bill is one of jurisdiction, the issue of jurisdiction of rulemaking. And I think we all know that the legislature creates broad policy mandates through bills that we pass. And then we pass that on to agencies to create detailed regulations. And this has been the legislative process that was first established in our first Congress. I really have concerns about breaking precedents and a slippery slope that we may be on, where we're really crossing lines with jurisdiction of the legislature and rulemaking by agencies. So I'm going to vote against this, but I really think that the real issue at hand is jurisdiction. Where does that rulemaking jurisdiction belong? And it always has been in the agencies. Legislature creates the mandates. The agencies then do the detailed regulations. And I would hate to see us get those jurisdictions and responsibilities crossed. So thank you, Madam Chair, for the ability for me to speak.
Yep, thank you, Senator Clausen. Just to also remind you that every year we come into session, we change laws. It is the right of the legislature. Just because they gave it once doesn't mean it's in perpetuity. When they see things having gone beyond, they have the right and the legislative right to make these changes. That is always the case. Senator Osmek.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just to add to what you just said, the reason why the legislature becomes involved in this type of situation is because one branch, the executive branch, in my opinion, and we can debate that, is exceeding its authority or going into areas that we did not necessarily legislatively intend when it was originally created. Of course, this was created, the rulemaking authority was created many, many years ago. But in practice, you start to learn legislatively whether you have given too much to the executive branch or not enough. And that's why we come into the legislature and start writing bills. And I don't know how many we got in, 2,000 by now or more. But I do have a couple of questions for Mr. McDonald. Mr. McDonald, the most recent statistic out of 2019 has a total U.S. greenhouse gas emission of carbon dioxide at 6,577 million metric tons. Obviously, if you were, and the advocates have been saying how this is to reduce carbon emissions, what is the quantifiable number based upon your calculations of actual reduction of carbon that goes into the atmosphere once this is implemented?
Mr. McDonald.
Madam Chair and Senator Osmek, based on our analysis, we anticipate this rule to result in the reduction of 8.4 million tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere over the first 10 years. Of course, those benefits will also keep accruing after those first 10 years, but that's what the analysis shows.
Okay,
Senator
so
Osmek.
thank you, Madam Chair. So 8.4 tons per year over 10 years is 840,000 tons. Is that my math correct, Mr. McDonald?
Mr. McDonald.
You know, I'm not exactly sure on the math there. It's 8.4 million tons over those first 10 years.
Okay.
So
I think I'm right. I'm 840,000 because you got 8.4 million, so you're 840,000 tons average per year, and divided by the total number of tonnage that goes into the atmosphere. 600. I mean, I'm just trying to do the math on this one. The actual net impact is a fraction of a percentage at best, and I don't have time to go and actually look at it. Just for the sake of argument, the actual reduction in U.S. gases would be 0.0001, for lack of a better number. And that's just the United States. That doesn't include the global number, which is far significantly. We're talking in the billions of metric tons. And you're saying we're going to reduce 840,000 tons per year. What would that, based upon that calculation, what would be the actual reduction in air temperature or impact to the environment, considering how many billions of tons go into the atmosphere on an annual basis?
Senator
Don't you
Osmek.
know?
Senator Osmek and
Mr.
Madam Chair,
McDonald.
thank you for the question. We do not have that in our analysis. It is not required by the analysis. But what I can say is, though, you know, the overall temperature reduction may be small here, right? It gets back to the idea that in order to solve an issue like climate change or any large global problem, individual actions do matter, right? And Minnesota has recognized this when it adopted the Next Generation Energy Act goal. And the actions that we would take through this proposed rulemaking and those reductions, those 8.4 million tons over that first 10 years, would help us meet our goals, and they would address the number one sector for emissions there, making a meaningful reduction in that sector.
Thank you, Senator Osmek. Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Senator Osmek.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, you just used the word meaningful. That's a joke, right? It's a percentage, it's less than a fraction of a percentage would change. It is an absolute ridiculous statement to say you would have a meaningful change, Mr. McDonald, when it's fractional. It's not even a percentage point. It's not even a fraction of a percentage point. So to say use the word meaningful is absolutely laughable. Mr. McDonald, one additional question. So in a previous committee hearing, we had testimony from the car dealerships as far as what would happen. And to repaint the scenario for you, what would happen is for cars, they would be forced by rule of law to put cars onto a lot that wouldn't necessarily sell at the end of a model year. Let's say that they're stuck with a number, let's say that a dealership A is stuck with about 10 cars or 20 cars that are left over. They have to discount those and take those as a loss leader. That was also established in the transportation area. When those car dealerships have to take that loss because of a legislative action, this is not based upon the free market. This is based upon a legislative action that is taking place from the executive branch. Where are they going to go to be able to recover the lost amount of money that they're going to be taking on their bottom line as a result of legislative mandates that you and your administration are posing?
Mr. McDonald.
Madam Chair, I think it's important to remember, right, that this regulation, the burden and the compliance obligations are on automobile manufacturers, and they are allowed to work with their network of automobile dealers in the state to sell those vehicles and to put them through to where it makes the most sense for them to get those vehicles. In addition, there is compliance flexibility built into this for automobile manufacturers to ease any type of regulatory burden. What we can say is we know Minnesotans want more cleaner options available in the marketplace and are looking to buy these options, and this rule will help make them do that.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Senator Osmek, I'm going to move on.
One thing. What you just heard, Madam Chair, was a non-answer to the question. There is no fund. There is no place that the car dealerships and manufacturers will be able to go for to be able to recover the losses that are being legislatively mandated by the Walz administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Osmek. Next, we'll go to Senator Koran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And to follow up on Senator Osmek's questions to Mr. McDonald, when you look at the goals, the stated goals and the reduction in an emission standard, none of what you've proposed would actually, it's a goal again, it would actually not impose anything or change the natural path of the acceptance of people buying more fuel efficient and cleaner cars. None of it would. All it does is pass the additional burden on to our automobile dealerships and those who choose a preference, a vehicle preference other than that which government wants to impose upon them. And so it doesn't do a single thing to actually achieve the goal. We're already well on on the path to cleaner cars, more efficient, greater quality cars. That's well on its way. Your proposal, again, writing legislation without the legislature in something so significant, I would have to ask, would there be any need for the legislature to exist at all under your premise to pursue this particular significant change? But all this does is shift the burden and create an additional tax for those who choose to buy a vehicle that the governor and his administration would prefer you not to buy. And it doesn't do a single thing. So your stated goals, as Senator Osmek stated, was not even a fraction of a percentage of proposed benefit. It doesn't do a single thing to drive it unless you intend to outlaw the vehicles of consumer choice and force them to buy a particular vehicle. You claim you're not going to do that, but what faith do we have that you're not going to move right to the next step? And we have no trust and faith that you're not going to move to the next step on commercial vehicles, ag, farm vehicles. What's next? We see no limits and bounds. You've disregarded the entire legislative process. And when you talked about what consumers want and what they want today is what the manufacturers are providing. And our consumers in our districts are telling us, we don't want you to arbitrarily increase the cost of their vehicle choice for some hypothetical goal. And your proposal does nothing to change that unless you intend to force them to buy a particular vehicle. Do you intend to force them to buy a particular vehicle?
Mr. McDonald.
Madam Chair and Senator Koran, no, this does not force consumers to buy any particular vehicle. There's an amount of information out there that has not always been accurate. And it's important to note that this does not apply to heavy duty vehicles or farm equipment. It does not require folks to purchase a new vehicle. It only applies to new vehicles. It does not require folks to purchase an electric vehicle. And lastly, nor does it require any emissions inspection requirements either, which is one of the pieces that's been out there. People will still be able to purchase the vehicle that makes sense for them.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Senator Koran, one final comment.
Quick follow-up. Yep, a quick follow-up. So in other words, it allows choice, but you've automatically increased the cost of that vehicle of choice. And that hurts all Minnesotans. And with that, to say that we believe and trust as far as the misinformation, we'd absolutely agree. The lack of accurate information or the willful withholding of information from this administration is astounding. This is something so critical and meaningful to Minnesotans, and it should involve the legislature. We are the voice of the citizens. Unelected positions are not. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Koran. Senator Carlson, I will give you one opportunity here before we move on.
Hey, Madam Chair, I just want to make sure that we really do look at things with a kind of open eyes here. We are behind our goals that the legislature actually participated in and what we have been participating in the 12 years I've been in the legislature. Things like clean air in our restaurants and clean air in outside. This is something that does affect us all. And I think we pretty much universally agree that we have to do something. And this is one of those somethings. And I do need to dispute a little bit about the number of tons that we do in 10 years. You don't start out with an average. You maybe have an average once, but otherwise over 10 years, you start out with zero. And at the end, you have potentially double the average. And that continues after the 10 years. So just getting started is where we have to start to look at how we're going to do this over the years. So I do want to ask, if there's somebody has another idea for us to save our climate, to save the people that are breathing in this bad air, I'm all for looking into it. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Carlson. One of the things when we talk about these pounds and we're measuring them or tons and so on, is the fact that the market's already going there. So we're talking about a marginal effort. And if the agency thinks they can take credit for that which is already going to happen under current market conditions, that to me is not accurately measuring the true impact by this kind of a forced situation and this rule that is about how we get there. But thank you, Senator Carlson. Senator Pratt.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. And just to respond to that and agree with, a lot of what Senator Koran and Senator Osmek said. The discussion here today is not about whether or not we are going to meet a goal. The question here is whether or not the right way, the right process to make bold, major policy changes is through the bureaucratic administrative process. And I brought up the fact that we have three major assumptions that are questionable, and one was an outright error that would have been brought to light had we gone through the legislative process, Senator Carlson. And so this isn't about the policy itself. This is about the process. And we can have all the letters to the agency that we want, but it's not like actually putting a vote on the table, because they get to still manage the process. So to me, this is what we're discussing here is good governance. And if you want to talk about climate change and the benefits doubling or tripling, let's have that conversation in a committee hearing. So again, thank you, Senator Matthews, for bringing this.
Thank you, Senator Pratt. We're going to go to you, Senator Matthews, here for closing comments. I just want to ask a question, Mr. McDonald. You had a choice here to choose the federal EPA air quality standards or to choose the California emissions standard. You chose California, not only in choosing California, but also what it also puts us on a path is that if California changes their emission standards, Minnesota must immediately comply with them as well. This is an ongoing forward, a critical decision. So it seems to me that adopting the federal EPA standards would have been the more logical thing, but instead California was chosen. And I think it's important for the people to know that ties us into California. California then in the future will be dictating, unless this is stopped, will be dictating to Minnesota what our standards will be. And I think that's an important realization for us, that this isn't just about today. Mr. McDonald, would you like to comment on that?
Yes, Madam Chair, I would like to comment on that. Thank you for raising that point. That's a common point where we've heard numerous concerns about that. It's really important to note that if California changes its standards in a meaningful way and adopts new standards related to greenhouse gas emissions or the other harmful air pollutants, it will add a new chapter to its regulations. Minnesota would have to proactively go through another rulemaking to adopt those standards. So if California changes its standards, Minnesota will have another chance to determine the path that is correct for Minnesota.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald, but I'll just let you know, you have already made that choice to go along with California. So the thought that you would actually take a look at the next chapter and say, no, I don't think so. I don't think that's a reasonable kind of conjecture at this point.
Vote here, I'll let you know.
Somebody is not on mute, I think, Senators, check your buttons there. Thank you. The other thing is that my understanding of this is also that there must be a percentage of certain vehicles with lower, ultra low, or zero emissions. I want to be sure I got that lingo just right there. Is that correct, Mr. McDonald? Can you clarify that?
Madam Chair, that is correct. The ZEV or zero emission vehicle standard does require automobile manufacturers to deliver a certain number of credits, which is not percentage, but it does translate into a percentage of vehicles sold in Minnesota for sale. That would be zero emission vehicles, which are both full battery electric vehicles or plug-in hybrid electric vehicles.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McDonald. I want to mention as well here, though, just so we realize the electricity that they get comes from a source. That source is about 25% thereabouts of nuclear power. And then there is other coal sources for power. So just because you plug it in and you get that electricity, yes, maybe that individual vehicle, those batteries use rare earth minerals. There's mining involved. There's the problem we have with reclaiming batteries, what to do with them. And so the narrowness of this conversation sometimes is like electricity is just this clean thing without recognizing the source from which it comes today. Well, with that, thank you, members, for a very robust discussion. I'll go to Senator Matthews to make a few closing comments, and then we'll go to our next item on the agenda. Senator Matthews.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you everyone for another robust discussion on this. Just briefly to comment, I've heard the claim made again before that this is only impacting manufacturers and won't impact dealers. And that just goes to show that this is another example where the agencies and administrations don't seem to really have a firm grasp on the industries that they're regulating. These two relationships are so intertwined that you cannot claim that it's only going to impact the one without it also adversely affecting the others. And the dealers know that, and they've been very strong in coming out about that. And the agency won't admit that they're incorrect in their claims on that. And the process, Senator Koran was correct, it is about the process and the legislative process with a bill, with committee hearings, with legislators, senators, and representatives like us that are accountable to the people in our districts. That will always be more transparent and more open than any form of rulemaking process, sending in form letters on a website, than anything that the agency can do for rulemaking process. The legislature is the transparent part. The rulemaking process is very difficult for people to find. In fact, I've helped encourage that as this process has moved on. I've probably been the cause of some of the letters that have come up, but it's much easier to access your local legislator and have a conversation with them on your views. All of us here around this, all the senators around this table, stand for election to their districts. And if we make a choice that our districts don't approve of, they have the opportunity to replace us and send someone else that does represent their views. Mr. McDonald and Commissioner Bishop and the entire agency do not sit for election and do not have that accountability where there are ramifications for not listening to the people in that manner. So this is about getting it back to the constitutional process where it belongs. This debate belongs in the legislature. Thank you for the many good points that were raised here today, and I'd ask members to please support the bill.
Thank you, Senator Matthews. With that, members, we're going to go ahead to a vote.
Madam Chair.
Senator Carlson, you've spoken twice already. You will not be speaking again today. We have a full agenda, and we're going to move forward.
I'm asking for roll call.
Oh, perfectly appropriate, Senator Carlson.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Members, roll call being requested, roll call granted. And that is an acceptable another request, Senator Carlson.
I believe it's going to general orders, Madam Chair. Can you clarify for me?
We will do that. It is going to finance. So Senator Osmek, if you would make the motion, please.
Madam Chair, I would move this Senate file be approved and recommended to be approved by this body and be re-referred to the Committee on Finance.
Okay, Senator Osmek moves that Senate File 450 be recommended to pass and be referred to the Finance Committee. Members, this is a roll call, and I'll ask to call Mr. Newbauer, if you would please call the roll.
Senator Kiffmeyer,
Aye.
Senator Howe,
Aye.
Senator Carlson,
No.
Senator Osmek,
Yes.
Senator Pratt,
Aye.
Senator Koran,
Aye.
Senator Clausen,
No.
Senator Fateh.
No.
Okay, members, there being 5 ayes and 3 nays, the bill is passed and referred to the Finance Committee. Thank you, members.
Thank you.
Senator Clausen, I see your hand raised. Is there a question or just, okay. I wish the little hand raising thing, we had a little, one of the things I think of that bar stayed up on the bottom so that you could kind of see it a little bit better. But anyway, with that, we're going to go to our second bill on the agenda, Senate File 1564. Senator Rosen, welcome to the committee. Glad to have you here today. And I will move Senate File 1564 to be before us today. Thank you, Senator Rosen. You can proceed.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and members. The Senate File 1564 is the bill that deals with the Legislative Advisory Commission, the LAC process. And this LAC process, as you know, has been used extensively this past year due to the COVID-19 and the vast amount of federal funds given to this state. And it has clearly showed the needs and the hiccups and the problems that we've had with this process. We need to make it more accountable and transparent, and the statute basically needed a good cleanup. So this LAC process, so the Legislative Advisory Commission, has been on the books since 1971 and has never had any real good attention to it. I'd like to say this was my bill. It's really not. It has been written and reviewed. And these are the thoughts, and I believe in this bill too, but it's from the people that deal with this statute on a daily basis besides the legislature. There is a bill summary by Stephanie James in your packet, members, too, that is very good. I'd like to just, if I could, Madam Chair, briefly step through the bill section by section. It shouldn't take too long, but it is important because it does frame up this bill.
Right.
Section 1 adjusts the membership on the commission. Right now, there's only 3 members on the Senate and 3 members on the House, and there's no minority involved. And I really think that's a problem. So what we're asking is for the Senate, it would be the majority leader, the finance chair, and the minority leader for the finance division, and the chair for the appropriate budget. And then the House would basically be the same, except the president of and the president of the Senate would be in the Senate. So it'd be the majority leader, minority leader, president of the Senate, finance chair, the minority lead for finance, and the chair for the proper budget jurisdiction.
And the ranking member, yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And the House, we would be just replacing the president of the Senate with the majority leader. And of course, it'd be the speaker, and then the Ways and Means chair, the lead for Ways and Means chair in the minority, and the appropriate chair for that budget jurisdiction. Section 2 makes a change that all federal money coming to the state goes through the LAC for review. And as you know, Madam Chair, and many of you, 2 members, there's a lot of money that goes straight to Health and Human Services, federal dollars, that we never get a chance to review, to housing. This would add some transparency to their budget about what is happening. Section 3, we experienced it this year, Madam Chair, where the governor's budget request to the legislature did not clearly identify the federal funds submitted for review. And that's why we had to put a pause on it. We needed to know what these federal funds were being used for. And you can't expend those funds until there's an okay by the legislature. And that was a little maddening that there was this huge list that came to the chairs, and it didn't really explain what it was used for. So we're just saying, hold on a second, we need a full list and we need to know what's happening. Section 4 says that if a member has a question about an expenditure or request, or more information, a public meeting is called within the 10 days for the review. And if at the public meeting, a majority of the members provide a negative recommendation on the expenditure, the money cannot be expended. The commission may hold separate public meeting and may revoke its negative recommendation, and the agency may expend the federal funds after the regular session is adjourned for the year. So that is one big change, that the majority of members can do a negative recommendation and it cannot be expended. Section 5 is the urgent process. So under current law, if federal money is awarded to the state for the expenditure after the deadline of the 20 days review, but before the third deadline for the budget division, or if the legislature is not in session, or the availability of the money from that source or for that purpose or in that fiscal year could not reasonably have been anticipated and included in the governor's budget request, an urgency requires the money be encumbered or expended before the legislature reconvenes or prior to the end of the 20-day period and allocated to the state agencies after the LAC has reviewed the request. If the commission makes a positive or no recommendation, or if the commission has not reviewed the request within the 10 days after the date of submitted request, the commissioner may approve the request and allot the money. This is current law. Complicated, takes a couple times to get your head around it, but that's current law. The new language would say, if the commission makes a negative recommendation or ask for further review within the 10 days after the date the request was submitted, the commissioner is prohibited from approving the expenditure. And if the request to expend federal money submitted receives a negative recommendation or a recommendation for further review, the request may be resubmitted again. So you're given this a second shot to resubmit it after it's had that proper review. On page 4, line 26, it basically says the whole process of this recommendation can be done with a written consent. And then on 4.29, it basically defines the urgency. There's really never been a definition on urgency and what that means and how this all fits in. Urgency means an expenditure of federal funds would prevent imminent harm to life or property. And that's certainly what has happened this last year. Or urgency means a failure to encumber or spend the federal funds before the expiration of the earliest time provided would result in a loss of those funds. And then section 5 is basically cleanup language. Negative or a request for further review within the 20 days after the request submitted means the commissioner is prohibited from approving. If a negative or a request for further review, the request can be submitted again. And if a positive or no recommendation, the commissioner may approve this request. So we just, on section 6, it's basically redefining what the earliest statute means. That is the bill, Madam Chair, and I am open for questions. I also have Mr. Eric Nauman. It's kind of like my testifier, not really, but he's there to help me back up this. And Mr. Erickson also is very well abreast of this issue.
Take myself off mute here. Thank you very much, Senator Rosen. I appreciate your presentation today. Thank you very much to Mr. Nauman. I know you here as specifically assigned to the Finance Committee that Senator Rosen chairs. And so do you want to we've walked through the bill, but Mr. Nauman, do you want to make comments at this time?
Madam Chair, I'm here in case there are questions that I can assist with.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nauman. Glad to have you. We also have Ms. Cowell from MMB. Do you wish to make comments, Ms. Cowell?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
Right.
I'm here. Madam Chair and members, my name is Alicia Cowell, and I'm an executive budget coordinator at MMB. I'm here to testify in opposition to the changes to the Legislative Advisory Commission statute in Senate File 1564. The current LAC statute has served Minnesotans well. It's striking a balance between making sure we maximize the receipt and use of federal resources and ensuring that the legislature has oversight over these funds. Typically, federal funds are provided to states for very specific purposes, and there is not much, if any, flexibility in the use of those funds. The changes in this bill would complicate the legislative review process and slow down the approval of federal funds. Current statute is designed to ensure we can receive federal funds and deploy those funds quickly to serve Minnesotans. It is important to note that many states do not have interim legislative oversight over federal dollars as they are received and spent. According to a 2015 survey by the National Association of State Budget Officers, 31 states do not have legislative approval of unanticipated federal funds while the legislature is not in session. In Minnesota, we do have legislative oversight during the interim through the LAC review process. So I want to be clear that MMB supports this existing oversight. Over the last year, we have worked hard to be transparent with our recommended federal spending, making sure to fully brief legislators and respond to all questions. So I appreciate the opportunity today to share our concerns with adding additional process that could impact resources reaching our communities. As demonstrated in the past year, we remain committed to engaging with the legislature in dialogue regarding these funds, and we are committed to continued collaboration in serving the state in the best way possible. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Cowell. I appreciate your being here today. Senator Rosen, did you have additional comments?
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. I do. And there is certainly nothing hopefully in my presentation or in this bill that says MMB is doing anything wrong. They are following the law. They certainly are. And they have been we collaborative, and there is a goal to be more collaborative. And I do believe with this commissioner and his team, I believe we're going to get there. But we have seen such an influx of federal money coming in, another 4.5227 billion coming into the state in the next few weeks. And clearly, as I pointed out, there is no really, it's just an oversight. We have no control over this money at all. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the minority has no voice. I think that's one of the biggest, red marks on this whole piece of legislation is the minority has absolutely no voice, and we have no way to stop this. And I believe that with this bill, we're setting up a system that can move quickly. There's no reason why this can't move quickly. So we are going to, I think MMB has maximized the use of the funds. This bill will continue to maximize the use of the funds. We're just asking for more accountability, more transparency, and a stronger voice at the table. Because we, frankly, Madam Chair, have had no voice lately.
Thank you, Senator Rosen. As a member of a budget committee, I've experienced that kind of oversight. We'll let you know what we're doing, but we're doing it anyway. And I have to think of all the questions and ask them specifically to know. And I think we've all kind of gone through that kind of situation. But the big thing is the legislative voice in this process representing the people. Members, I see no hands up at this time. And so having heard our testifiers and the presentation of the bill, we're going to go ahead and take a vote on Senate File 1564. And this bill will go to the Finance Committee. Senator Koran. Senator Koran moves that Senate File 1564 be recommended to pass and be referred to the Finance Committee. On that motion, members, please unmute and be on screen. All those in favor say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay and raise your hand.
Hey.
All right, thank you very much, members. The bill does pass and is on its way to Finance Committee. Thank you, Senator Rosen. Thank you,
Madam Chair. Thank you, members.
All right. All right, with that, we will be going to our next bill on our agenda. Reminding you again, as I announced in the beginning, Senate File 708 will be starting around 6:30 this evening. There are other meetings going on subject to possible delays, but as much as possible, I am eager to get our committee on time at 6:30 if at all possible. All right, with that, members, we will now move on to Senate File 714, Senator Utke. Welcome to our committee, Senator Utke. Glad to have you with us today.
You're on. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm happy to be with you today. And I will start with a quick introduction to our bill. And then I will also have join me Representative Green, who is on the Zoom here also before we get to our other testifiers. So Madam Chair and members, you've heard a lot about rulemaking already. I sat and caught part of your first hearing this morning. We have another rulemaking topic, and our bill is to avoid agencies from making rules that clearly conflict with statute or the original intent of the legislature. This bill would tighten up rulemaking language in a few ways. First, it clarifies that agencies must use specific authority delegated in law when adopting, amending, suspending, or repealing rules. Second, it lowers the threshold an agency has when determining if public hearing requests are petitioned by the public. The current law states there must be 100 requests for a hearing for the agency to be forced. This would lower the threshold to 25 people. Lastly, it calls agencies to list all grants of rulemaking authority provided by law. This list requires them to connect all rulemaking back to the statute they claim gave them the authority, initiated the rulemaking process, as well as the agency's view on the rule. This will help the legislature keep the agencies accountable in ensuring their rules comply with the law allowing that power. If proper statutory authority is not cited by an agency, any future rulemaking of that specific granted authority is considered invalid. We realize some rulemaking is necessary, as I brought a bill to you yesterday to approve a change in rulemaking for the Commerce Department. But by our standards, we have runaway rulemaking in process. And part of that you discussed with the California emissions here just a little while ago. You know, some of the topics that concern us have to do with the agencies will say they need to comply with the federal requirements. Okay, you know, we deal with that conformity issue in the legislature quite commonly. You know, as an example, conforming with taxes, conforming with the insurance issues in commerce, you name it, we can deal with it. So I don't see a reason to rush through a lot of these things, and actually rush through isn't even the right word. Rulemaking in a lot of times, in a lot of cases, takes more time than it would take to run it through the legislature and bring it through the public process. So a conversation like you've had previously and we're bringing up again needs to take place. We have a lot of room for improvement. Department governing by rulemaking is what has me and many of my constituents concerned. And again, the one example was the California emissions, another is the social studies standards by the Department of Education. Again, rulemaking that has basically end-run any public process and now would be have the jurisdiction of law. And basically, our goal with this legislation is rulemaking with legislative direction rather than legislation by rulemaking. And with that, Madam Chair, I would like to bring in Representative Green to add his comments on this because he's played a major part in this bill.
Thank you, Senator Utke. Representative Green, welcome to the committee. And just state your name for the audio record, and then please proceed with your comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm State Representative Steve Green. I represent District 2B. Senator Utke is correct. I've been working on the rules portion of this bill for quite some time. It's been really difficult to get it to pass. Most of my testimony that I was going to bring forward, either Senator Utke has covered or it was covered in Senate File 450. That was a well thought out bill and good testimony. and most of the testimony that was brought forth on 450 applies to this bill as well. So instead of going through that again, unless there's questions, I would just state that I think you may be hearing testimony from agencies today that tell you that this is just too burdensome and they can't do it, and it inhibits them. I'd just like to remind the committee members one more time that the process of the rulemaking is for the agency to enforce the law that the legislature's passed. What we see over the years now is they go back in time and they will pick out old laws from years ago and develop new rules on those laws, and so the legislation is bypassed. And I've heard the comments that the rulemaking allows for more public input, and that's exactly opposite. I don't even know where that statement came from, because most people have no idea those rules are even going through, and unless there's a massive outreach, they will not be able to even know how to respond and put comments on those rules. And the effect on people around the state, and especially, I won't say especially in my district, but I know in greater Minnesota, the rules that are coming by are severely burdensome, and it almost makes me angry when I hear the agencies tell me that the legislature trying to hold them more accountable is too burdensome, when they don't seem to care at all about the burden that they put on the people that we're supposed to represent. And with that, Madam Chair, I think, like I said, the testimony has been given. And unless there's questions, I think I'll just refer back to you.
Okay, thank you, Representative Green. And members of the committee, we do have two testifiers. We have Ms. Gauthier from the MPCA. Ms. Gauthier, go ahead and state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, committee members and Madam Chair, for this opportunity to testify today on Senate File 714. My name is Greta Gauthier, and I'm an Assistant Commissioner at the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. Madam Chair, through the Administrative Procedures Act, which is Chapter 14 of our state statutes, as you know, the legislature created a process specifically designed to be transparent and to involve the public. The general rulemaking process takes a minimum of 18 months and has many points at which the public can and does get involved. The multiple points of involvement and the length of time that takes allows members of the public to have time to understand and learn more about the rules that are proposed, seek additional information, and then weigh in with their perspectives. Public participation in the rulemaking process can be very high. Just in the two current rulemakings at the MPCA, Minnesotans have weighed in at numbers that are very high. And Madam Chair, having worked in and around the legislature for the last 25 years, higher than I've ever seen weigh in at a legislative hearing. For our class 3 and 4 rules, water rules making, we had more than 1,000 people participate in this through e-comments, testifying at a public meeting, or written comments. Currently on our clean cars, to date, there are 305 submittals to our through e-comments, and more than 70 people provided oral testimony over 2 days of public hearings last month. And the comment period on clean cars is still open through March 15th. We are also required to respond to all of those comments, Madam Chair, under the Administrative Procedures Act, and we do. Rules are not merely for the benefit of the agency, Madam Chair. They are mainly for the benefit of those who are regulated and the public. Rules interpret statutes and provide specificity so that those who are regulated know what's expected of them. Rules, by definition, are what we can enforce and to help a specific industry comply with the laws that have been put forth by the legislature. If agencies are prevented from adopting rules, then we would be forced to evaluate situations on a case-by-case basis. This will take much longer than applying a clear rule that lays out expectations and timelines so regulated parties will know what is expected of them. Finally, Madam Chair, I will say that the requirement to seek specific authority for each rulemaking would interfere with the MPCA's ability to meet our federal obligations. We are delegated at the MPCA is the delegated agency in Minnesota to implement many federal environmental laws. We are delegated by the federal government to do this work. It requires that delegation requires that states have permanent and enforceable requirements that meet specific federally prescribed benchmarks and minimum standards. Rulemaking is typically how states meet these requirements. In some cases, states have very strict deadlines for these federal requirements, and these deadlines do not typically accommodate legislative action. So Madam Chair, with those comments, I'll keep it brief and just say that we do not support this bill because of the concerns and problems that I just testified to. And I'm happy to stand for questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Gauthier. I appreciate your comments today and being here for us. We also have another testifier, and then members, I will go to your questions, comments. Mr. Carey from the DNR. Mr. Carey, if you want to go ahead and state your name and who you're representing for the audio record, and then proceed with your testimony. Welcome.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Rob Carey. I'm a staff attorney at the Department of Natural Resources. The department's main concern with this bill is with the use of the term specific. Mainly, that term is not defined in statute, so it's left up to interpretation as to what is meant by specific authority and what underlying piece of legislation counts as specific enough authority. And this can cause an issue when an agency is granted rulemaking authority by statute, but that statute does so using what I'll call relatively broad language. And I can give you an example of how this might play out from DNR's perspective. In the game and fish laws, for instance, there is a statute that says the commissioner shall adopt open seasons and prescribe limits for the taking of small game animals. Now, DNR takes that underlying statute with that sort of relatively broad language and then adopts rules for the taking of various small game animals through the permanent rulemaking process, contacting stakeholders, going through all of the public involvement that we've previously heard comments on. But those rules are much more specific and much more detailed than what's in the underlying statute that is authorizing the adoption of those rules. So for instance, there's specific rules on taking pheasants, there's specific rules on taking grouse, there's specific rules on taking rabbits, that kind of thing. But all of those rules rely on that underlying piece of legislation that uses and employs a more broader language, right? So if it's determined that that underlying statute is not specific enough to the more detailed restrictions that are in rule, then those rules go away, to the detriment of the resource that those rules are trying to protect. So really, DNR's comments are really about that, the use of the term specific and, the lack of clarity on what is meant by specific and what effect the use of that term is going to have on the type of rules that are set up using a piece of legislation, an underlying piece of legislation that authorizes those rules using those broader terms, and similar to the example that I just gave. So with that, that concludes comments from DNR.
Thank you, Mr. Carey. Thank you for being here today. And members, we have session at 12 o'clock, and we need a few moments to get over to session. We are going to conclude this bill and not carry it over into the evening. And so, Senator Utke, I'll go to you. I do have a few comments. Do you want to respond, or you want to do that in your closing comments before we vote?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will just respond quickly on one thing, and then I'll wait to wrap up. But couple things when I just had heard from the PCA was the number of comments, and I believe I got this, heard it right. The waters rule generated 1,000 comments, but California emissions, there were 300 comments and 70 oral comments. If I have that right, I could get more comments than that stopping at a big box store with one visit. So I want to make sure that I got those numbers right.
Thank you very much, Senator Utke. And members, Senator Clausen, I'll give you one moment here and then I'm going to proceed to a vote. Senator Clausen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I appreciate Ms. Gauthier's comprehensive overview of the rulemaking process, and I participated in some rulemaking processes in the past. And I think one of the things I'm hearing about the social studies, public hearings, and so on, if you don't like the outcome, that doesn't mean that the process is flawed. So I think that's one of the things we have to keep in mind. I also, a few minutes, talked about that this is a slippery slope as we're looking at jurisdiction of rulemaking versus the role of the legislature. And I think this is a bill that demonstrates that. I also have a problem with lowering the hearing request from 100 people to 25. I think that just invites special interest groups to take over those hearings. I did have a question for Senator Utke, but I think I'll do it offline because I know we're having limited time. But thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Clausen. This bill will have a couple other steps to go through, so you will have another opportunity to follow up with it as well. And I just would like to mention that one of the things to us as legislators is to realize what we have heard from our testifiers, that when we give broad rulemaking authority, they take it broadly, and then they use it to make specific determinations as they decide to interpret it. It's a lesson to us as legislators. Be careful when you are dealing with rulemaking, that you yourself are specific and that you only delegate those things that you truly want to do. But it's been for many decades that some general rulemaking was given in way years past. And I'd like to mention it takes a long time to go through the rulemaking process. During that time, there'll be 2 legislative sessions, lots of time. And every single one of us gets more comments in a day than what I hear about through rulemaking, and their access to us is incredibly a lot more. And I think that's really important. The other thing is many times, even in all these comments, doesn't change the outcome. And that's where people are so frustrated by it. They make the effort to go there, to make their comments. And as to special interests, I've seen a lot of that in any case, whether it's the legislature or through the rulemaking process. And by the way, I don't happen to think that special interest groups are a bad thing. We have a constitutional right of a freedom of association, whether you're conservative or liberal, agnostic or whatever you might be. You have the right to associate. You have a right to speak. And if you happen to organize and come together to speak that message, well, gee, here we are in the legislature. We organize to get elected. We organize as we go through our process. So we're using our rights and our freedoms, and that's a good thing. And to kind of give a negative connotation to them because a group of people got together, whichever philosophy they have, I don't think is a fair thing to judge them in that way. So with that, members, we're going to proceed to a vote on Senate File 714. Senator Utke, you mentioned closing comments. I wasn't quite sure. I did want to give you one more chance before we vote, unless you prefer to go on.
Madam Chair, you can jump into your vote, because the only thing I was going to remind you, and it's just a sentence I had earlier, it's we're in favor of rulemaking with legislative direction rather than legislation by rulemaking. And you guys have covered that topic very well today, so thank you.
Thank you, Senator Utke. I think that's a very good statement. With that, members, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of I will move Senate File 714 to be recommended to pass and to be referred to the Finance Committee. All those in favor, please unmute, come off screen, and all those in favor say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
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 All those opposed say no and raise your hand.
No.
All right, thank you very much, members. The bill does pass. Senator Utke, your bill is on its way to the Finance Committee. Thank you, members. We are now in recess, and we will see you back around 6:30 p.m. Thank you.